My work is easy because I use ClickUp. Here's how I keep track of all my tasks. I start by brain dumping everything I need to get done, and
Hello. Hello.
Behavior. What do you think are the causes of this? What solutions can you suggest? First, you need to plan the question that we're looking at. Today's problem and solution question comes from Test 4 in Cambridge IELTS Book 4. And as usual, I'm going to show you how my students and I wrote an essay for this question. Here is the question. In many countries, schools have severe problems with student behaviour. What do you think are the causes of this? What solutions can you suggest? First, we need to plan our answer. And the planning has 3 steps. The first step, read and understand the question. Well, we've read the question, but now let's highlight or underline some key parts. I would highlight the task first. The task is we have to talk about causes and solutions.
There are hundreds of thousands of YouTube videos all about IELTS writing, but here's the problem. They're all
And then I would highlight the topic. The topic is student behaviour in schools. So we need to write about the causes of the bad behaviour and the solutions. One good main paragraph for each. One more word I'm going to underline in the question is the word you. It's asking for your opinion about the cause in the question graph. Topic is student behaviour in schools. So we need to write about the causes of the bad behaviour and the solutions. One good main paragraph for each. One more word I'm going to underline in the question is the word you. It's asking for your opinion about the causes and the solutions because you don't have any other materials with you. You don't have the internet or any books. So it has to be your opinion about the causes and the solutions. So it's fine to write I believe or in my opinion in this kind of essay. Let's move on to step 2 of planning. Plan your essay structure and the 4 paragraphs we usually use: introduction, 2 main body paragraphs, conclusion. In the introduction, we just need 2 sentences for the topic and the answer. The topic, of course, is student behaviour in schools, and for the answer, we're just going to introduce the idea of the causes and introduce the idea that there are different solutions. So we thought we'd write something like this: a variety of reasons for this problem, but steps can be taken to tackle it. Taking steps to tackle a problem means trying to solve it. After planning the introduction, we skip to the conclusion and repeat the answer. Usually that's what we do. In this type of question, the problem solution, I usually prefer to just summarize the problem or the problems and the steps. And this really means that you have to wait until you've planned your main body paragraph ideas before you can summarize the causes and the steps. We'll be able to do that better when we've done the rest of the plan. Just moving on to paragraphs 2 and 3 now. In paragraph 2, we'll put the causes of bad student behaviour, of course, and then we'll, of course, have the suggested solutions. And that's the structure. The third and final step of planning is plan ideas for the 2 main paragraphs. We'll spend about 3 minutes on each one. And that's what we'll do now. We'll start with the causes of bad student behaviour. These are the ideas that my students had when they brainstormed these causes. The first and easy answer was to blame the parents. Parents are not strict enough, and we thought the word lenient might be a nice word, meaning the opposite of strict. But let's say a bit more about parents. What result does the lack of strict discipline have on children? The children don't accept teachers' instructions or school rules at school because they're not used to following strict instructions, maybe. Then my students had a different answer. Apart from the parents, we might blame schools or teachers. Teachers' fault. Why? No control, bad classroom management. And a final person or group of people to blame could be the influence of celebrities who are a bad example. You can see there that we're blaming 3 different groups of people, the parents, the teachers, and the celebrities. And this looks like a perfect example of ideas for a firstly, secondly, finally paragraph. If we quickly number those ideas in numbers 1 to 5 for the 5 sentences that we're trying to write for this paragraph, we'd start with a topic sentence saying there are several causes of bad behaviour. Then firstly, the parents. I think we can get 2 sentences about the parents because we've got a bit more information there. And then we'll do our secondly point about teachers and our finally point about the influence of celebrities. Then we did the same thing for paragraph 3, the suggested solutions, and here are some of them. We'll start with the solution for parents. They could set rules for children, be stricter. We'll say a bit more about that, use punishments, and show that actions have consequences. Then we move on to the solutions related to schools or teachers. Schools could train teachers and parents a bit more. They could give them discipline techniques and better communication. Maybe schools could encourage parents and teachers to communicate better. The final people that we blamed were celebrities, famous people, so we'll have a solution for that problem. Famous people need to act as role models. Again, you can see the 3 groups of people that we blamed before, and we've got a solution for each one, the parents, the teachers, and the famous people. Let's order those ideas now. We'll start with number 1, sentence 1, a topic sentence saying there are definitely some solutions to the causes of bad behaviour. And then we'll go to our first point. We won't use firstly, secondly, finally. We'll try to find something different to link the ideas. But the first point will be about the parents, and we'll try and do 2 sentences again for them. Then we'll move on to the teachers and the schools, and finally onto the famous people, the solution there. That's the full plan then. We've got good ideas, we know the structure, and we're ready to start writing.
Bạn tạo dựng thành công, hãy giữ chọn nó. Tại Dubai, không thuế thu nhập cá nhân, không thuế lợi nhuận. Sự kiện bất động sản Dubai chính thức có mặt tại Hà Nội vào ngày 8 và 9 tháng 11. Lần đầu tiên, thị trường bất động sản Dubai bùng nổ được mang trực tiếp đến Việt Nam. Khám phá cơ hội sở hữu bất động sản trọn đời, minh bạch, an toàn với kế hoạch thanh toán linh hoạt, đặc biệt visa vàng 10 năm cho cả gia đình nhà đầu tư, sự kiện độc quyền, số lượng ghế cực kỳ giới hạn. Hãy đăng ký ngay để không bỏ lỡ cơ hội thay đổi tương lai.
The first paragraph that we have to write, of course, is our introduction. If we go back to the question and look at our introduction plan, remember two sentences, a topic sentence introducing the idea of student behaviour in schools, and an answer just covering the variety of reasons and the steps that we will explain later in the main body. Here's the first sentence that my students and I wrote about the topic. It is true that the behaviour of school pupils in some parts of the world has been getting worse in recent years. A few things to notice in that sentence. First, I often begin with "it is true that" when we have a problem and solution question, because you want to accept first that the problem is true. And then we can paraphrase some of the things from the question. So, the behaviour of school pupils instead of student behaviour, and some parts of the world instead of in many countries, and I've just made it a bit different by saying it's been getting worse in recent years. Then we move on to the answer. We're going to just cover the reasons and the solutions in one sentence. The first half, there are a variety of possible reasons for this. This comes from the plan, variety of reasons. Then we'll talk about the steps, but steps can definitely be taken to tackle the problem. So we haven't given any reasons or steps yet. That will come in the main body. We just introduced the fact that there are different reasons and a variety of solutions or steps. That's the introduction finished. Then we need to go on to paragraph 2. If we go back to our plan, we'll see that the first idea was we needed a topic sentence just introducing the several causes of bad student behaviour. Here's what my students and I wrote. In my opinion, 3 main factors are to blame for the way young people behave at school nowadays. Remember, we already know we've got 3 ideas, so we can put that in this topic sentence, 3 main factors. And instead of saying reasons, we've said factors are to blame. That's a nice phrase to use. You could use that phrase in any essay about problems and solutions. The next point, and this will be our firstly point, was the parents not being strict enough. Here's what we wrote. Firstly, modern parents tend to be too lenient or permissive. Some good vocabulary in there. Modern parents, and then tend to be is they are usually too lenient, and I've added another word, permissive. They allow everything, they allow their children to do what they want. And we said we were going to say a bit more about the parents. The second point, children don't accept the teacher's instructions or the school rules. Here's what we wrote. Many children become accustomed to getting whatever they want. So that just explains the permissive or lenient parents a bit more. And then we'll go on to the instructions and the school rules. And they find it difficult to accept the demands of teachers or the limits imposed on them by school rules. As usual, I try to add any good vocabulary that I think of while I'm writing the sentence. So we've got accustomed to getting whatever they want, and then difficult to accept the demands instead of instructions, and limits imposed on them is a good phrase. The next point will be our secondly point. The teacher's fault, no control, bad classroom management. We'll start with secondly. Secondly, if teachers cannot control their students, there must be an issue with the quality of classroom management, training or support within schools. And our finally point was the influence of celebrities who are a bad example. Finally, children are influenced by the behaviour of celebrities, many of whom set the example that success can be achieved without finishing school. That paragraph contains 5 sentences, and it's a typical firstly, secondly, finally paragraph. You can see those words underlined there. And in total, it was 103 words long. Let's go on to do the same thing for paragraph 3. Our first idea that will be the topic sentence was the suggested solutions. We wrote, student behaviour can certainly be improved. A very short, easy topic sentence.
Here's how you can learn English in just 1 month with Learna AI. First, choose your age. Then, pick your current level of English. Next, select your native language.
Then our firstly point will be about the parents setting rules. I believe that the change must start with parents who need to be persuaded that it is important to set firm rules for their children.
Kinh. 37 điểm. À đâu, 37 câu.
Hello Dũng.
Hello.
Lẩu về là
Kinh nhỉ, tự.
ta thấy dễ mày ạ.
Thế á, để dễ để gì ấy?
Cái test 11 đây.
7 à? Môn 7 test 11 á.
Ừ.
Đủ, mày thấy dễ, mày thấy vấn đề bắt đầu dễ là mày đang đi lên rồi. Ngon.
Không, đề này dễ thật mày ạ.
Thế á, tao chưa làm.
Nó rõ ấy, đề này rõ với cứt ấy.
Thế để tiếp tí làm thử phát. Kinh nhưng 37 là cao ấy, 37 là ngắn chắc vậy đấy. Thời
Tiếp,
gian
phải
làm
tiếp.
bài, ui có 50 phút. Mày dùng cái
51 mà.
cái linear ở 51, cái linear thinking của ấy á, của Đôn nhá.
Ta dùng ít, cái đấy ta dùng ít chủ yếu là ta dùng kiểu cách đọc của tao.
Kiểu bản năng.
Cái đấy, cái linear đấy tao dùng để ấy thôi, để làm mấy cái câu multiple choice với cả nối thôi, chứ mấy cái gap filling tao vẫn tự làm, tao cho nhanh.
Rồi, trước giờ tao vẫn làm bản năng kiểu thôi kệ chắc vì người có phong cách.
Đấy à?
Làm tí writing.
Mày sao đầu à?
Hả?
À, writing á?
Làm tí
Là
writing.
tính ra. Được lắm mày không biết.
Ui, tao thấy Lensibot chấm ok phết. Trước nọ là nó chấm cho tao 7 chấm ạ, nhưng mà lâu lắm rồi.
À thế à? Mày thằng Quang với Quỷ rồi. Biết thằng Quang nó tin không? Tao còn nhắn tin với nó cũng dùng cái đấy nó học mà.
Tao đang học chung lớp IELTS với nó rồi nhỉ.
Thằng ấy Quỷ phết.
Sắp thi rồi.
Nó 9 tháng 11. Nó hẹn lịch nó gửi tao mà.
Kinh cũng ấy được thêm một khóa. Tao đang học chung với nó mà.
Ừ, nó Quỷ phết.
Thế
Tao
thì-
thấy nó viết Quỷ phết.
Công nhận nó dùng từ khó.
Ừ.
Chịu thôi. Làm tí writing ấy. Đi học writing.
Từ có câu này sao tao lại cho là ấy nhỉ? Câu này tao chưa hiểu tao chọn kiểu gì. Rồi kệ nhỉ? Tí chưa?
Coi. Tắt lấy đây, học gì?
I've not put firstly this time, but we've said the change must start with parents. That's a nice way of showing that this is our first point. A bit more about this, we had the words, the ideas, use punishments, actions have consequences. Words, showing that this is our first point. A bit more about this, we had the words, the ideas, use punishments, actions have consequences. When children misbehave or break the rules, parents should use reasonable punishments to demonstrate that actions have consequences. Misbehave is good there, break the rules, reasonable punishments, and demonstrate. The next idea will be the secondly point about teachers and schools. Schools should train teachers and parents, discipline techniques, better communication. We wrote, also, schools could play an important role in training both teachers and parents to use effective disciplinary techniques and in improving the communication between both groups. So we're saying schools could play a role, training teachers and parents, disciplinary techniques, and communication between both groups. That means the parents and the teachers. Our finally idea, the famous people should act as role models. At the same time, famous people such as musicians and football players need to understand the responsibility that they have to act as role models to children. As I said, we didn't want to write firstly, secondly, finally again because we did that for paragraph 2. So this time we used start, also, and at the same time as a way of showing where we are in the paragraph. The start, the first idea, parents, and then also about schools and teachers, and at the same time about the famous people. So we used those words to link instead. There are many other ways to link 2 or 3 ideas, and these are just some of them. That paragraph was 102 words long, and now we're ready to move on to the final paragraph, the conclusion. We said that we were going to summarize the problem and the steps, and now we know what the problem or the causes of the problem are. We know the steps as well that we've given. If we think back, we had the teachers, the parents, or parents, teachers, and celebrities, and we had some steps for each. Let's start by giving the problem again, summarizing that problem. In conclusion, schools will continue to face discipline problems, and then mention the steps, unless parents, teachers, and public figures set clear rules and demonstrate the right behaviour themselves. We've repeated the problem of discipline, and we've mentioned those 3 groups who we thought are part of the problem but could be the solution. The parents, teachers, and this time we've said public figures instead of famous people. That's nice vocabulary. Set rules and demonstrate the right behaviour. That's the end of the essay. We've finished the 4 paragraphs. Let's quickly check the band 7 to 9 vocabulary from that essay. Steps can be taken to tackle the problem. The good thing about that phrase is you can use it in any problem or solution essay. 3 main factors are to blame. You could also use that in any problem and solution essay. The rest of the ideas are specific to the topic of education and bad behaviour. Parents tend to be too lenient or permissive. Children become accustomed to. Limits imposed on them. Quality of classroom management. Celebrities, famous people, public figures. Set an example. Set firm rules, reasonable punishments. Play an important role in. Effective disciplinary techniques. Responsibility to act as role models, and face discipline problems. Those were the best phrases, I thought, in the essay, and the ones that examiners would really notice. And that's what would help the essay to get a band 9. That's the end of today's lesson. Remember to print the worksheet next to this video and work through the little task at the bottom.
Dạ. Ồ, quên mất để tí thay. Xem có chăn gì thay. Vâng. Vâng. Extra landfill, overconsumption, appetite. अच्छा.
It's time to sign up for school. It's time to sign up for school. This year, Natalie is going to Brock University. This year, Natalie is going to Brock University. She has never been to university before. She has never been to university before. She is a little bit scared. She hopes she meets nice new friends. She hopes she meets nice new friends. Natalie stood in line to get her picture taken. Natalie stood in line to get her picture taken. Natalie stood in line to get her picture taken. Natalie stood in line to get her picture taken. Natalie stood in line to get her picture taken. Natalie stood in line to get her picture taken. Natalie stood in line to get her picture taken. The picture was put on a card. The picture was put on a card. The picture was put on a card. The card was her picture ID, identification. The card was her picture ID, identification. The card was her picture ID, identification. She would use this card if she needed to buy books from the school bookstore. She would use this card if she needed to buy books from the school bookstore. She would use this card if she needed to buy books from the school bookstore. She would use this card if she needed to buy books from the school bookstore. If she wanted to get a book from the library. Or if she wanted to use the pool. 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 After all of the signing up and money was paid, after all of the signing up and money was paid, Natalie went out to lunch with her mother. Mom, I'm kind of scared about going to school. Mom, I'm kind of scared about going to school. I'm going to be the youngest kid there. I'm going to be the youngest kid there. I don't know how to take notes. The teachers might be mean. 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 Natalie rambled on. Natalie rambled on. Natalie rambled on. Her mom just calmed her down and said, "Take one day at a time, Natalie. Take one day at a time, Natalie. Worry only about today." You're right, Mom. Thanks. Natalie was very scared on the first day of school. Natalie was very scared on the first day of school. She made sure she had all of the books she needed. She made sure she had all of the books she needed. She made sure she had all of the books she needed. And lots of pens, pencils, and erasers. She walked into the front of the building. And went on her way to try and find her classroom. And went on her way to try and find her classroom. Natalie got through her classes and met a lot of new people. Nice people. Natalie got through her classes and met a lot of new people. Nice people. Natalie got through her classes and met a lot of new people. Nice people. Her classes seemed to go by really fast. And the day went by even faster. When Natalie got home, she was so excited. She told her mom that classes weren't all that scary. She told her mom that classes weren't all that scary. She told her mom that classes weren't all that scary. She told her mom that classes weren't all that scary. She told her mom that classes weren't all that scary. The students and the teachers weren't scary either. Natalie knew that the schoolwork would be hard. Natalie knew that the schoolwork would be hard. But she felt good about the people she had met that day. She knew she'd have a good year. 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 She knew she'd have a good year.